Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 240 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, buddy, I'm feeling golden. How about you?
I'm feeling crispy gold at the moment. A nice whiff of fresh air this morning in the beautiful US of A.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love that. US goes back to back at the World Juniors for the first time in their history. We've talked a little bit on the show about some of the big moments in US hockey history. Obviously that first World Juniors that was huge. Carlson's overtime winner against Canada was awesome. Obviously Miracle on Ice and the 1996 World Cup, but this has to be up there for me. That is such a huge deal for USA hockey as a whole.
One hell of a game too. We're gonna go dissect the gold medal game against Finland later in the episode and kind of give our State of the Union recap of the World Juniors. So stay tuned for that later in the episode. We do not have Mac today with us, unfortunately. He is going to be traveling, so
He's
safe
still
travels to him.
thawing out from his time at Wrigley for the frozen confines.
Yes, if you don't follow us on social media already, I would encourage you to do so. Mac was documenting his journey at the frozen confines at Wrigley, which indeed looked very cold. Some pretty funny content per usual for Mac. So go check that out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all those good things.
He got some great free hockey too. I think what the women's game that was the first of the two went into like a shootout or something, like 8 rounds, and then the game afterwards, Sparty and Wisconsin went into overtime.
I believe he mentioned that in the group chat as well. Michigan's uniforms. I know you probably want to say one or two quick things about those.
Yeah, not that I need any other ammo to shit on the Wolverines or anything that institution does, but like I think that might be like the worst outdoor uniform for any game I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm not really sure what vibe they were going for. It almost looked like they were trying to make a baseball uniform into a hockey uniform.
It was really weird. The socks didn't make any sense to me at all, and then I don't know why you choose to put like that much yellow and just move the M up to like the left chest. It's just way too much yellow on the front. I've talked about the color yellow as a primary on the show before at length, so I'm not going to get into that again. But yeah, that was rough.
Well, we're glad Mac had a good time. You definitely gonna want to go see the rating that he gave for the stairs
Yeah,
at the stadium.
that was
It's very
big.
important.
Glad they
It's ver-
worked. It's usually a problem when they don't.
it's very important. All right, well, we're gonna hop into the league news. A little bit of a quick episode, if you will, because we just recorded late in the week last week to catch up from the holidays. So not too much has happened since we last spoke. But before we get to all of that, I know Nick has a word from our friends over at DraftKings.
Absolutely. Playoffs. We're talking playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score six. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
It is definitely the best place to bet on touchdowns. Did so over the weekend. Got a nice little last second ticket to the Ravens game. Got Derrick Henry live in the fourth quarter at some plus money. Cashed within 5 minutes. It's one of the most euphoric feelings in the world when your live bet cashes that quick.
We cooked up a nice little parlay, a little two-legger between you and I this weekend that hit as well. That was pretty sweet.
Yes, you're the Matt Gay whisperer, so congratulations.
Yeah, that has hit what, 10 weeks in a row? Over one and
I,
a
I,
half field goals. It's just money.
Yeah, that was a good hit along with the Dobbins rushing yards. But this is a hockey podcast. I'm going to do
It
my
is.
whole wild card weekend Twitter thread later in the week about what's going on. So follow me on X for that. But um, last episode, I know there was a lot of chatter from our end about the Winter Classic and all of the issues with it. Well, the ratings finally came out, and turns out that this NHL Winter Classic between the Blues and the Hawks had the lowest viewership ratings in NHL history. Just shy, or I should say Winter Classic history rather, just shy of 1 million viewers.
That's pretty bad.
Really bad.
Considering, how much growth the game has had over the course of the Winter Classic coming into the league and being a staple of hockey in the wintertime. I mean, that first one, which, unfortunately was the best one between the Sabres and the Penguins, that was in what, 2008?
Yes.
So it's been a while, and the fact that it's not getting over 1 million viewers is very concerning. We talked last episode about how this wasn't a great matchup. I don't think there's any denying that. It probably wasn't going to be the best hockey game. Everyone knew that, but you do still have a little bit of the star draw, with Bedard and everything. And ultimately, that just didn't seem like it was enough. But I feel like the killer here for me has to be the change in the schedule by putting it on New Year's Eve at 5 p.m. when everyone is either going to dinner or getting ready or still asleep so they can stay up until midnight. It's just, you're already competing with so much around then. I don't really understand that decision at all.
I could go on and on, but Max said it perfectly last week, just like you might have hinted at. New Year's Day is the day that everybody's sitting on the couch hungover watching sports, right?
Yes.
I know college football is
Yes.
on, but college football was also on New Year's Eve, granted a little later in the evening, but I don't really understand that decision. I think more than anything, the matchup was just horrible. I mean, yeah, Bedard's name has a lot of hype around it, but if we're being like very honest here, he's not really putting up the numbers this season that I think we all thought he would in his sophomore year. And you're not missing all that much. I mean, yes, he's a very good player. He's fun to watch. But if you're a casual watching, it's not like you're watching McDavid play.
That's a great way to put it. It's not like McDavid or McKinnon or Matthews are out there where it's just that huge draw like by itself. I mean, maybe last year, but like you mentioned, it's a little bit of a slower season this year, which, this happens. It's not the end of the world. Doesn't mean he's a bust. Obviously an amazing player and everything, but uh, the funny thing with the Winter Classic is I don't even think it has to be that good of a game to be a good Winter Classic. Like, I mean, the one that the Caps had against the Blackhawks, that was close. The Caps won with like 30 seconds to go. Troy Brower, that was awesome. It wasn't a great game to watch. I'll be the first one to say that.
Yeah, I feel like usually they're pretty boring, to be honest. Like you don't get
Right.
many good ones.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's been a lot of YouTube videos I've seen about how to fix the outdoor game segments, what the NHL needs to do in the future. I would highly encourage people to go YouTube that if you're interested. But just wanted to put a little bow on the Winter Classic chatter from last week going into this week. But someone who has not put a bow on the season just yet is Mr. Todd Maclellan behind the bench for the Detroit Red Wings, who don't blink have all of a sudden won 4 games in a row and are 1 point out of a wild card spot as we're recording this on Monday, Jan 6. The Red Wings 4 game win streak, couple wins against some teams, Capitals, Penguins, Blue Jackets, Jets, not a bad flurry of teams there. I mean, 4 very respectable teams. And
And
their
three of
last
them in
five,
the East.
3 of them in the East, 2 of them battling for the wild card. In their last 5 games since McClellan's taken over, it's a pretty sharp difference. They're 8 for 16 on their power play in the last 5 games. All of a sudden, they've got the fourth best power play in the NHL, and they have not been outshot once during that 5 game span. They were outshot in 24 of their first 34 games. So it's just a night and day difference here.
Yeah, I think this just goes to show what a good quality hockey coach like Todd Maclellan can do. Like this guy has been, you would think, in every possible situation throughout his NHL coaching career. He's coached some great teams, he's coached some really, really bad teams. And I think what you're seeing here is just new face coming in. Everyone's taking a little bit of a deep breath. Let's reset. Maybe we shuffle the lines a little bit, move some guys around to play with some other guys that, might give them a better look. I think we talked about Joe Veleno last episode. That's a great example of that. But, we've said that this team is capable of playing good hockey. They just need to, A, keep the puck out of their own net. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, which they are doing. I don't know if you got to catch their game against Columbus, but that was an absolute barn burner. I think one guy who deserves a lot of credit here since McClellan's come over is Patrick Kane, a
Yes.
guy who's taken a lot of flack from Detroit fans this season. I believe if I'm looking at his game log correctly and counting this up, he had 4 points in Lalonde's final 12 games as head coach, which is obviously not good. And since McClellan has taken over, he has two, three, five, 7 points in 4 games.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, in his last 4 games, three multi-point efforts and then a goal against Pittsburgh. So yeah, he's cooking right now. The Wings look hot.
Yeah, and it's not like Red Wings fans are going to cut him any slack with the whole, hey, I tormented you for years with the Blackhawks thing and now I'm not playing great. He's going to be the first guy to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've always thought about how that dynamic works. But I did shoot a DM over to fellow Red Wings fan and listener of the pod, TJ Kretz, just kind of wanted to get his feedback on what he's seen from the team. I got to watch the New Year's Eve game against Pittsburgh and the Wings look great. But one thing TJ wrote, and it kind of ties into the outshot stat I just read, the Wings are just peppering goalies. They're getting pucks
Yeah.
low, cycling high, shooting the puck. And based on what TJ said, there's a lot less dump and chase, letting the skill guys kind of cook in the neutral zone, if you will.
That's a skilled team, and that's a team that's got a pretty mobile blue line too. So guys that can definitely jump up and activate off the rush.
Yeah, it's making the wild card race pretty tight here, which is going to tie in nicely to our next talking point. The Eastern Conference wild card race is tighter than it's ever been, to put it quite frank. 5 points separate 9 teams, all competing for two wild card positions, which is just crazy to say. Tampa and Ottawa have games in hand compared to some other teams battling for the playoffs, but we'll talk about each of these individually. The Jackets, the Senators, the Canadians, some teams that people might have pronounced dead, and now they're alive.
Yeah, I would love to see the Columbus Blue Jackets make the playoffs. I just think that would be awesome given everything they've had to go through this season. But this is going to get pretty heated. You would think that the Flyers are probably going to make another push at some point. I feel like they always make a push in the back half of the season, so you know that's coming. I don't think we can declare either of the New York teams totally dead just yet. I think, the Rangers, obviously I know Igor's hurt right now. We've been ripping on them for 2 to 3 pods, but that team, it just takes one game for them to figure it out, and they're going to just be flying again, just given that roster and the talent that they have there. And then the Islanders, you just never know. You just never know what you're going to get with them.
Yeah, like I'd still be pretty surprised if the Rangers just fall over and die. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
really feel like that's going to be their MO. I honestly still think they're going to be a playoff team despite all the turmoil and drama that they've experienced. Not to get into trade rumors here, but like if JT Miller does end up going to the Rangers, that's going to be a huge boost for them. But yeah, man, the Blue Jackets, like these guys are the most fun team in hockey. I know
Yeah.
Cody Pucks on Twitter says this all the time. He's riding and dying with the Blue Jackets, and that cannon's going off like every 5 seconds. High scoring, high energy games. They might let in a lot of goals, but man, they could score a ton of
Yeah, it sort of reminds you of like the 2007,
them.
2008 Caps where they could win games like 6-5, but they're also going to lose some games like 7-5.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend. Columbus is 5-4-1 in their last 10. And I gotta give a shout out to Kirill Machenko. This guy is having an unreal season. 43 points through 40 games this season, top 20 in the league in points. I mean, to give you guys some like perspective of the names he's with, he's got the same amount of points as Nylander, Crosby, Aho, Pastrnak. Like this guy's having a really good breakout year here.
Yeah, it's great to see, especially for them, in Columbus. We've joked for so many years about how they didn't really have any exciting players. And, obviously the Patrick Laine thing did not work out. But the fact that they've got an exciting player like this in their roster, I think is definitely putting energy back in that building.
For sure. Then you move on to the Senators, another team I'd like to talk about just for a second. 6-4 in their last 10. They were absolutely cooking up until Christmas. And then Allmark ended up getting hurt. He had 7 straight wins right before the injury, before Christmas, and he's currently listed as week to week with a back injury. So that kind of sucks for the Sens. They've dropped 3 of their last 4 after being on that heater. So we'll see. It looked like they were making a real solid push, but with Allmark out, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
And I think they got some scary injury news from practice today with Jacob Bernard Docker going down and then not being able to put any weight on his leg. That looked really, really bad. I really hope that that guy's okay.
Yeah, a massive 3 game slate coming up here for the Senators this week. They've got the Red Wings in Detroit the day you're probably listening to this, which will be Tuesday. And then they've got Buffalo and Pittsburgh later in the week. So all of those are wild card teams in the East that are battling it out. Should be a good one.
This wild card race is interesting. You mentioned those teams, the Sens, the Jackets, the Habs that are sort of, fighting over this wild card spot. All of these teams have really not great goal differentials. And then there's Tampa, who's sitting in that one wild card spot, who's got like a plus 32 goal differential, which is just bonkers.
Yeah, Tampa's legit. I think they could make some serious noise, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're not sitting in that wild card spot by the end of the year. I
Yeah.
could see them being a top three. And then the last team in the wild card race that I think deserves just a little bit of, I guess, recognition. It's a really weird team, but Montreal, like they don't really make any sense. In their last 5 games, they're 4-1. They beat the last 4 Stanley Cup champions, and then they lost to the last place team in the NHL, the Chicago Blackhawks. It makes no sense.
That's Habs hockey in a nutshell right there. I mean, I like the line A fit. I'm glad that that's working out for him, and it seems like he's happy there. So hopefully they can continue to put things together. I think if they're close at the deadline, they'll buy.
I wouldn't be shocked. I think the fans, I think ownership is kind of sick of always retooling, rebuilding. They want to make a push. They want to make the fans happy. And if you think St. Louis doesn't want to make the playoffs, you'd be dead wrong. That's one of the most
Oh, he's a
competitive
gamer.
guys.
He wants
Yeah.
to win. He'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Montreal. I know it was a sexy preseason pick, like these guys to make the playoffs. Everyone thought they were going to take the next step. So I don't know. It's like it's kind of time to shut up or pucker up, if you will.
Yeah. Well, everyone thought that about Nashville too,
This is also true. Couple signs of life as of late, but yeah, it's still bleak there, if you will.
for sure.
Before we move on to some Capitals and Pens chatter, just an absolutely wild stat that I saw online that I felt the need to share because I couldn't believe this was real. Connor McDavid has been in the league since 2015. We are now in the calendar year of 2025. It's been 10 years.
You know how
And
long he's been in the league? You'll like this. This is a very niche Towson reference, but I watched his very first playoff game at Kent House.
okay, so he's been in the league a while now, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that.
10 damn years, which is nuts. Uh, for the first time in his career, the Oilers won back-to-back games without him registering a point.
That's crazy.
That is that is just insane. That stat comes to us from Sportsnet stats on X. The Oilers took down the Kraken and the Ducks over the weekend, and 97 didn't get on the score sheet, which is pretty insane.
That's just crazy by itself.
It is. So not really too much to dissect there, but just a brain blower of a stat where I was like, this can't be real. And I started reading the comments and they're like, no, yeah, like this is a testament to how little help he had for the first like
Yeah,
7 years of his career.
that's a great point.
So, anyways, we're gonna move on to some Washington Capitals chatter. And Nick, the floor is yours.
Oh yeah, baby. So Caps are 4 and 1 in their last 10. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. Recently, tough overtime loss to Minnesota. We talked about Fleury's last start in DC. I thought his comments after the game about facing Ovi were hilarious. He was basically saying like, I don't love it when he scores on me, but I've really enjoyed the matchup throughout the years. And I feel like people forget just, how much those two have had to go head to head against each other throughout their careers. I mean, even after the Penguins years, it was, Fleury who Ovi had to face in the Stanley Cup final. So, it doesn't really get much more intense than that. They followed that up with a 7-3 win at home over the Rangers. That was a noon game. It was a wild, one of those weird NHL games that, it starts at 12 and then out of nowhere, we've got 11 goals. So Ovi scores in that game. He gets number 872. He's now 23 away from passing Gretzky. So just watch those ticket prices climb, baby, because it's only going to get worse from here on out. Upcoming games, they are at Buffalo tonight or yesterday when you guys are probably listening to this. That's going to be a tough one. You did mention in our group chat that they're wearing the goat heads. I don't love that, so we'll have to see how that goes tonight because we all know the Sabres love to spoil the Caps party. They are then home against Vancouver on Wednesday, home against Montreal on Friday, and at Nashville on Saturday. I am very under the impression that all three of those games should be wins. Bridgestone is always a tough place to play for the Caps, even though the Preds are terrible right now. But I would like to see 3 wins out of that rundown for sure. And then one other thing I just wanted to get to, I want to touch on what's coming. We're talking so much about this team right now, and guys like Jacob Chikrin and Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, Alex Ovechkin, obviously with this pursuit of greatness and chasing down Gretzky's record. But let's talk about the future because it is pretty bright in DC right now. So this is just a rundown of where the top 5 Caps prospects are, top 6. Ryan Leonard at BC had 10 points in 7 games at the World Juniors and was arguably the best player in the tournament. I think you could say he was one of Team USA's 2 best players in the entire tournament.
He won the MVP, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Then you've got Cole Hudson, the guy who you can probably say is the other MVP from Team USA at BU, 11 points in 7 games. We'll get to a little bit more on him later. Andrew Cristall out in the WHL in Kelowna is second in points. Ilya Protas in Windsor is tied for fourth in points in the OHL. And by the way, he's like 6'5". Peter Sikora, who had an unreal tournament with the Czechs, 7 points in 7 games at the World Juniors. And then Tarek Parasak out in Prince George has 49 points in 33 games in the WHL.
Yeah, I tweeted this on the night of the gold medal game. I am absolutely terrified of the future of the Washington Capitals because they are loaded right now with prospects. I mean, the top two you just listed, Leonard and Hudson. I was texting you guys this in the group chat. I'd be pretty shocked if there's not some type of call up come playoff time. I mean, both of those guys could have a serious impact, especially Leonard in a playoff series. That's a guy that you definitely want mucking it up, throwing big hits, getting good scoring chances, one of those playoff power forward types that everybody needs.
Yeah, so skilled and so much energy. I think Nick Bowens, our buddy, put it great. He said he's the best player not currently in the NHL.
Yeah, I think Craig Button said that too on NHL Network, which is a pretty big compliment, considering we've got guys in KHL and all that stuff. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of leagues, some of them are dropping cell phones out of their pants, but this kid, he's he's on a different level.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the Hudson one is really the one that you just have to give a shout out to that Caps front office for drafting that guy in the second round. Like, are you kidding me?
Makes no sense. When was I'm gonna look this up actually. I want to see when Lane was drafted. Was he a first round pick?
Lane had to be a first round pick.
He actually was not. Lane Hudson was
Wow.
drafted by the Canadians in the second round, 62nd overall.
Wow, that's
So
wild.
they were both second round picks. Is Ilya Protas related to Alexei Protas?
They are brothers.
Okay, so you've got two sets of brothers because Protas and Hudson, or I guess Hudson, never mind. That was a
Yeah.
dumb. My
One
brain
set
went
of
somewhere
brothers,
else.
but still.
Two sets of brothers, but only one on the same team. I figured as much when you say 6'5" and his last name is Protus.
Yeah, exactly. He's a big rig. He's really skilled, unbelievable hands, and shot just like his brothers. So, really looking forward to that.
Well, I'm going to move on and talk about the Pens real quick. Only 2 games since our last recording. In their 3-game road trip, they went 0, 1, and 2. So they did lose all 3 games, 2 of them in overtime. So they grab a couple points. Honestly, all things considered, going on the road at Florida and at Carolina, I, I'm fine with 2 overtime losses if we're being honest. The one thing about Carolina that pisses me off, 2-0 lead in the first period, and of course they blow it. Jarvis and Aho just did their thing where they go off, and there was no stopping that. Um, but all things considered, they're holding on to that wild card spot right now. They do have an extra couple games played compared to some other teams, but can't complain too much. They are now going to start a 5-game homestand. So this is a big 5-game test coming up, kind of a mixed bag of teams. They've got CBJ on Tuesday. That's a huge one. Edmonton on Thursday, who we literally never beat. I'm pretty sure I always publish a 2-unit max bet on Twitter when we play the Oilers. So let's see what Thursday has in store. They've got Ottawa on Saturday. That's another huge game for the wild card. And then Tampa on Sunday. So a little back to back there. Also big for the wild card. I feel like I'm going to keep saying that. And then Seattle after that to close out the 5-game homestand. So I would be I would be pretty happy with like a 3-1-1. I think that's doable. I think we're going to lose to Edmonton. We'll probably lose to Tampa, but if we can push one of those to overtime, I'd be pretty happy with that.
It's a good way to look at it.
So we'll see what the team has in store, but just a couple takeaways. I mean, we're at the halfway point of the NHL season, which is crazy. 41 games played.
Yep.
And Raquel and Russ, man, what a first half to the year, especially Raquel. He's been such a key for this team to get back to where they are, leading the team in goals. Big game tying goal in Florida that was huge in the dying moments to snag a point. So those two guys have been maybe the best players for the Pens. I know that sounds crazy to say because Sid and Gino are still keeping pace, but those two have been unreal for us. Letang and Pickering back from injury. That's pretty huge. Looking forward to see what the D core can do going forward. Unfortunately, we are at the point in the year where Evgeny Malkin is on his own winter break and will sometimes show up to games and sometimes won't. I don't really know. This has always kind of been a thing in his career, and it's
Yep.
becoming more evident as he gets older. So I don't know. I would like to see a little more out of Gino here, but we'll see.
I think that's fair to say. It's definitely something I've noticed over the course of his career. And not saying that he's the only one that does it. There's definitely other players in the league that do this too. But I think you make a good point that it's a little bit more noticeable as he climbs up that age ladder.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yes, he's getting older, but someone tweeted this, and it's true. Like, next year is going to be his last season. He's going to retire after next year. I'm almost certain because his contract will be up.
Right.
Um, but it's like this guy doesn't have. He's got less than 120 NHL games left. It's like, come on, bud. Like, I want to see
Right.
you put the pedal to the metal. I know you're old, but give me the effort at least, right? So
Exactly.
we'll see. That about wraps it up for the Pens chatter. We're gonna dive very deep into the World Juniors here, but before we do, I know Nick has a word from our friends over at Game Time.
Absolutely. You guys know there's nothing like watching hockey live, the chill of the ice, the sound of the puck, and screaming for your favorite team. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Using their super deal, I got my Caps tickets for this week on Game Time, and now you can too. Game Time's deals make it easier to find the best prices on the best seats, and you can even see a panoramic view from your seats before you pay. Game Time's all-in pricing shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Well, it was game time last night, that's for sure. The U.S. takes home the gold medal, 4-3 in overtime against Finland. It is the seventh gold medal for the U.S. in the tournament's history, the first time they have gone back to back. Harry, I know you watched that game. I don't think that I could have imagined anything more stressful than a 20-minute period of 3-on-3 overtime. But I mean, what an effort by this team. Down 2 goals in, the back half of the second period to get this thing tied up, to bounce back, to take it to overtime. And I mean, what a pass to set up that game-winning goal. Buoy him to Teddy Stiga.
I'm shocked they won this game. I completely pronounced them dead after the Finns went up 3-1. The second that happened, I was like, like we haven't been down 2 goals all tournament. Team isn't really adversity tested. And the kids got game, man. I mean, they all do. That was a hell of an effort. Um, it's crazy. First time in history back to back. Like I know the U.S. hasn't been the traditional superpower, but I'm a little surprised by that that at some point we haven't done it. So that's huge. That's huge for USA. That's, planting the flag like, hey, we are perhaps the dominant force in the world of the future of hockey, which is so exciting. Huge shout out to Trey Augustine, becomes the winningest USA goaltender in world junior history. That is a pretty big honor. There's a lot of names in there that are, Hall of Famers in the NHL, and this kid's already up there at number one.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I thought he was fantastic. I think some people will say, oh, he should have had this, he should have had that goal. I think the end of the day with Augie, it's just the saves he makes in the second and third period down the stretch. It's the saves he makes when he looks like he doesn't even have a chance. I mean, that's what makes this guy the best goaltender not currently in the National Hockey League. It's just unbelievable what you get from him on a night in, night out basis. And, everything that's gone on at Michigan State, I think you can just directly point to Trey Augustine and say he's such a huge part of it. Uh, Want to talk about Cole Hudson for a second. We mentioned one of the Caps' top prospects coming out of this tournament. He finished the tournament with 11 points, 3 goals and 8 assists in 7 games, and he's the first defenseman to ever lead the entire tournament in scoring.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Think about like Cale Makar, John Carlson, like all these, prolific offensive defensemen, Quinn Hughes, like
sure.
all these guys. This is the guy who
Petrangelo.
led it. Yeah, this is the guy who led it. I mean, that's a second round steal for sure.
Yeah. So just an unreal tournament by the team. There were so many, guys that played a huge role. Guys like Cole Iserman, who maybe don't get a ton of ice time, but he's a power play weapon. And when he's out there, on the power play against Switzerland, makes a couple of huge plays. The game against who was it? The Czechs, the goal on that 2-on-1, you're not there. You're not in that gold medal game without that goal from him, So just plays like that are unbelievable. Zeev Buium lugging the mail the whole tournament. His vision, his skating is unbelievable. Just could not be prouder of USA hockey right now. And, I feel like we can't talk about this without talking about the best part about all of this, which is the fact that they had, the 13 and 21 sweaters hanging up in the dressing room the entire time.
And how about head coach David Carl, man? This guy uh, is dominating hockey in the last year of his life. 2 gold medals, a national championship. I've seen a lot of people online posting like this dude is going to make some NHL franchise very happy in the future. I know a lot of people are saying the Blackhawks need to go after this guy with the youth movement, and he knows how to deal with youth clearly. I would not be shocked to see this guy in the NHL in the next season or two.
Oh yeah, he's going to get paid.
Yeah. A hell of a 2-year run. Just to recap the leading scores at the end of the tournament, and I am going to butcher some of these names, so please stand with me here. But Jacob Stancy, is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. For Czech, 10 points. He was second behind Lane Hudson. Third, Felix Unger Sorum, also 10 points. Both the guys I just listed are St. Louis Blues prospects. We all know about Axel Sandin Pellikka, Sweden, Detroit prospect, 10 points. Gabe Perreault, USA, Rangers prospect, also 10 points. And then Ryan Leonard, the Caps, also 10 points. So shout out to all those leading scores at the end of the tournament.
I do genuinely feel bad for Sweden because they have only won one gold medal in the tournament's 44-year history.
which is weird, right? You would think it'd
It's
be higher
very
than that.
weird. I mean, they are year in and year out like a threat every year. You know you're going to have to go through that team at some point.
I have no facts to back this up. I feel like in the last 10 years, they've probably at least been in the bronze game and probably even the gold or silver game, like maybe 8 or 9 of the last 10 years. I don't know.
Yep.
It feels like it.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
always up there.
and they didn't even medal this year because they
They didn't.
lost to the Czech in a 14 round shootout with a final score of 3-2.
What a move. That winner. Oh my God.
14 rounds. That was that was a heart attack waiting to happen if you're a Swede.
Yeah, exactly.
So a hell of a tournament. That puts a bow on the 2025 World Juniors USA Gold. It's just a great feeling.
It
I'm
is.
excited for the future.
Yeah, and they've got like 8 or 9 guys that can come back next year.
Yeah, let's run it back again. Canada's in absolute turmoil right now, so
Do it on
we'll,
home
we'll
soil. It's going to be in Minnesota. That would be pretty cool.
yeah, right. A three-peat like at home, that would be insane. We're gonna have to find our way to get there somehow.
Yeah.
We gotta do it. But we're going to move on to the gambling segment of the episode. But before we do, a reminder the gambling segment is brought to you by Prop Tracker. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding outlier bets for NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or receptions. Go to proptrackerApp.com/emptybetters to try a free month of the Android or iOS app. You can use the link in any of our social media bios to get your first month free on us. And that is a great investment to make ahead of Wild Card Weekend, which I know a lot of you will be watching and betting on. All right, Nick, I'll let you do the hot and cold teams.
You got it. Vegas 8-2-0 in their last 10. They are cooking right now. An absolute wagon. Look out for them. Don't love that. Dallas 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're looking great. And lo and behold, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 7-3-0 in their last 10. Let's go over to the colder side of things, the cold side of the pillow. The Devils, Bruins, and Lightning have all lost their last four. The Rangers are 3-7-0 in their last 10, and the struggling Sharks are 2-7-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, kind of sucks for San Jose. Like fun to watch Celebrini, but man, they got to kind of get it together here a little bit. Askarov has been stellar though. I will say I have him as my fantasy goalie, and he's
Yep,
been he's been real sharp.
that was a good move.
So keep an eye out for that when Askarov is starting. Who I think the Sharks beat they beat the Lightning, I want to say the other night. Sharks, I just want to make sure that I have this right because they were like plus 250 or something insane. Yeah, it was on th last Thursday they beat the Lightning 2-1
Wow.
on home ice. That was a crazy underdog game that I know nobody saw coming. All right, we're going to talk some player props first. Let's talk about Mr. Matthew Nyes. One hell of a weekend for the youngster. A hat trick and 2 assists, a 5 point game on Saturday versus Boston in Austin Matthews' return. And then he had a goal the very next night against the Flyers. He's got 18 points this season with Matthews in the lineup and only 6 points when Matthews is not in the lineup. So it's pretty evident this guy definitely reaps the benefits that AM34 is bringing.
Absolutely. And two former USA World Junior players right there. Love to see that connection as well.
Yes, sir. Next, I talk about this every week, and I finally found the official stat to back it up. So apologies, it's taken a few weeks. But Dustin Wolf, I talk about this guy all the time for Calgary. They're starting netminder. He's won 7 of his last 9 starts at home. The Flames are always reasonably priced. If you can get them against a good team while they're on home ice and get them at underdog value, I love if Dustin Wolf is in the pipes to take the Flames on that bet.
That's a good one to look out for. And I mean, clearly whatever they've got cooking at home, he's eating up.
And then Nick mentioned it earlier, but we got puck drop in probably 3-ish hours here. The Caps will play the Sabres. Two guys on the Sabres who are cooking right now. JJ Paterka, he's got points in 8 of his last 10, even money on most nights to get a point. That's a great value for him. And then Jason Zucker, he has a 4 game goal scoring streak, including a hat trick against the Avalanche over the weekend. So he's got what, 7 goal or three, one, 6 goals in his last 4 games. If I'm doing the math right, he's cooking as well. So be a lookout for Jason Zucker. We're going to move on to some teams. Talk about them all the time. They are the best bet in the NHL right now. They are the most fun team to bet in the NHL right now. Cody Pucks has stock of this team in his net worth right now. CBJ, the Columbus Blue Jackets, at home this season have gone over 6.5 in 17 of their 21 home games, which is just crazy.
Was it Cody that posted that picture the other day of that dude rocking that cannon hat?
He did, and did you see our good friend Elio actually took a flight to fly to
I
Columbus
did see that.
to go bet on the over and rip his shirt as it hit in front of everyone. And he took a screenshot of his DMs, and the Blue Jackets DM'd him and were like, "Hey, like, if there's anything you need while you're staying there, let us know." And he replied, 7 goals, which
Priorities,
is
man.
which is
Priorities.
phenomenal response. So congrats to Mr. Ice on the hit. Hopefully we'll be getting him back on the show before the end of the year.
Definitely.
Uh, we're gonna move on to Colorado, another team who's been scoring a lot at home. They're over 6.5 has hit in 14 of their 20 home games this season. They're taking on the Panthers tonight as we're recording this. Let's see if that stays hot. The Canucks, a lot of drama around them, but if you want to make a little money off the Canucks, they have been outscored 16-8 on the second game of back-to-backs this season. And it just so happens that they have a back-to-back this weekend. They play the Hurricanes on Friday night, and then they turn around and play Toronto on Saturday night, both away games. So maybe take a look at that Saturday game against the Leafs. If this stat stands true, Leafs puck line seems like a great bet.
Yeah, both of those teams could light the Canucks up too.
Agreed. So Saturday, Leafs against the Canucks in Toronto. Keep an eye on the Leafs for that one. I don't know what the odds will be, but I know Toronto will be favored. Let's see what the puck line value's at. And then lastly, I know we just talked about the Sharks having some big underdog games. The Anaheim Ducks are making some noise here, and I've been, I wake up and check the late night games on the Score app because the NHL app sucks. Every morning
Well
I wake
said.
up and the Ducks are just like taking down some juggernauts here. They beat Tampa at home. They covered a puck line they were like plus 160 at plus 1.5 against Edmonton. It was something crazy. And they cover that. They beat Winnipeg in Winnipeg. They beat Jersey at home. They beat Edmonton at home before that. I mean, this team is 4-1 in their last five, and they're beating some really good teams. Tampa, Winnipeg, Jersey, Edmonton. Like these are some plus 270, plus 300 money lines that they're hitting.
Yeah, and they just locked up Vetrano for 3 more years, right?
They did. He scored a nice little empty net goal on the same day. So
That's got
shout
to
out to
be a
him.
fun contract negotiation. It's like, hey, do you want to live in Newport Beach and get paid millions of dollars? Well, let me think about that.
And why don't you throw me an extra mil just for being a veteran presence on a dog shit team?
There you go. Why not?
So shout out to Frankie Vetrano. But yeah, keep an eye on the Ducks. They're making a little noise here as of late. Quack quack. All right. That about does it. Besides trivia, which I know Nick is going to tee up for me here.
Yep, I got one for you. We're gonna play a little Who Am I? I just need you to give me a name here. Let's
Ooh.
see if I can do this right. So, who am I? This guy played his 1700th game in the NHL on January 6th, 2021. So it's sort of a this day in hockey history. It was in the Panthers 6-5 shootout loss to the Stars. He became the sixth player in NHL history to reach that feat, joining Patrick Marleau, Gordie Howe, Mark Messier, Jaromir Jagr, and Ron Francis.
So is his 1700th career game,
Yes,
and it was in 2021 where the Panthers played the
Stars, but yes,
Stars. I believe that would be Joe Thornton.
nailed it. Attaboy.
There it is. Don't ever think of him as a Panther, but
Right? That's where I
2021,
thought
I
I was
thought
going to get you.
That might be the last year there, if I'm not mistaken. So,
It was.
well, that concludes this episode. Like I just mentioned at the start, a little shorter than usual, not a whole lot to catch up on. But Nick, do you have any final notes that you have for the listeners?
Freebird, baby.
Who was it? Someone on Team USA said, I had never heard the song before, but I can say it. I know all the lyrics now at this point after the tournament. I can't remember who said it.
Right.
It might have been Hudson. I can't remember. But yeah, congrats to Team USA. That's a huge accomplishment back to back. And we're halfway through the NHL season. So we're in the 2025 part. We've got about 3 months till playoffs, and that's when things get real fun. So
Trade
stay
deadline
tuned.
push starts now.
Yeah, stay tuned. Follow us on all our social medias. Definitely go subscribe to our YouTube page. Pumping out a lot more content over there this season. Also follow us on TikTok. It's kind of where we get goofy. Just saying. Good
True.
memes. But that'll conclude this episode. Appreciate the love and support as always. And without further ado.
Class dismissed.